The sauce we're going to be making today is one that I grew up with. It was almost always on our dinner table, and if you're South African, you probably have it on your dinner table right now. We're going to be learning how to make Mrs. Ball's peach chutney with a little bit of a twist. This is what we're going to need to make our lovely chutney. First things first is in this pot over here, I've been soaking my dried apricots and dried peaches. We have 1 kilogram of dried peaches and we have 0.4 kilograms of dried apricots. They've been soaking in about 2 liters of brown spirit vinegar. The vinegar I'm using is this over here, which is a South African brand, but you can use any old brown spirit vinegar. The reason I bought this specially is because I find it quite difficult to find brown vinegar that isn't malt vinegar in the UK. If all you have is malt vinegar, it'll still taste good and you'll still get a great chutney. It just won't necessarily have the exact same flavors of a Mrs. Ball's chutney. We have 4 kilograms of sugar. This is just white sugar. It's unfortunate that we have to use so much sugar, but this is a chutney, so chutney has sugar. There's nothing I can really do about that. If you have got a recipe that uses less sugar or uses sugar like erythritol or Splenda or sucralose, then let me know in the comments below. I am looking for some decent recipes. I have tried a few in the past and I'm just not really too happy with how they turned out. Over here we have some onions. There's 800 grams of onions, and over here is a new machine I've just purchased from Amazon. The reason you might want to use a mincer is because it gives you nice consistent chunks for your chutney. If you don't have one of these, go ahead and use a blender. Just try not to blend it too fine because this works best if you have nice chunks in it. So let's get started. We need to start cooking this up. Like I said, it's been soaking overnight and we're going to just cook it up inside the pot with the vinegar until it softens up a bit. That should take about 5 to 10 minutes. What you're trying to do here is just soften up the fruit. So you want to simmer it for a little while. So I'm just getting it up to heat and then it'll start simmering and it'll soften it up nicely and it'll make it a bit easier for us to put through the mincer. The smells here are incredible. Been almost 10 minutes now and these are softened up just right, so you can see there when it starts to fall apart, then you know that you've done it just fine. So it's time to switch this off. I'm going to use a slotted spoon just like that and a small bowl, and I'm just going to spoon it into there and we'll put it into the hopper of the mincer. The mincing is done, the fruit is all in there, and I also minced up the onions to go in there too. You can just chop up the onions if you want, but I just put them through the mincer. So that's just going to go back into the pot. And we're going to start adding the other ingredients. First thing first is the sugar. And another 2 liters of vinegar. So there's a couple last ingredients to add, and we're going to start off with our lovely chilies. So of course this is a ChilliChump recipe and it has to have chilies, but the original recipe for Mrs. Ball's chutney actually had cayenne chilies inside it. For this amount it was about 20 grams of the cayenne, either the cayenne powder or cayenne peppers fresh. I'm going to go with 70 grams because I want it a little bit spicier, but it really is up to you. And includes the seeds as well. You want that finely chopped. Probably could have chopped it a bit finer, but That'll work out just fine. And there's one last ingredient, and that is salt. So for this amount, we're going to need 20 grams of salt. So give that one last stir, and we're going to be leaving this now to cook for the next 2 or so hours. You want to come back and give it a little bit of a stir every now and then, just make sure it's not sticking to the bottom. You don't want this to burn, but the texture here, I think I've got it spot on. So if you use the amounts that I've shown you in this video, then you should also be able to have the perfect texture. Just get it to a very low heat, like barely a simmer, and you're going to leave it like that for about 2 hours, and when we come back, we'll be ready to bottle. There we have it, 16 jars of beautiful peach and apricot chutney. These jars are 500 milliliters, so we have 8 liters of chutney. That's going to keep us going for a while. I'm looking forward to getting some out to my family and seeing what they think. But it's time for me to taste it. Of course, I've been tasting it through the process. You've got to make sure that you're not putting in too much salt, that sort of thing. But I know this recipe works very well. The only thing that is a bit of an unknown is the amount of peppers I've used. I tried not to overwhelm it with too much heat, so let's see how we did. I've just poured a little bit into this bowl. Texture is absolutely perfect. That's what you want from a chutney. Oh. I think you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference between that and the real Mrs. Ball's chutney. That is delicious, really good. However, I think it's quite weird. I used about 4 times the amount of peppers that is for the traditional recipe, and I can't really taste it too much. Obviously there's a little bit of a spice there, but not a lot. I will definitely be going a lot stronger on the peppers next time around. Maybe even include maybe 1, maybe 2 super hots. But that's for the next batch. For this one here, it tastes delicious. It's got a great tang. It's obviously very sweet because there's sugar. But that tang is there from the vinegar and the dried fruits. And it all just comes together just great. So if you haven't ever had Mrs. Ball's chutney, I honestly think you should give it a go. See if you can find it. I know in the UK we actually can buy it in the supermarkets, and it's my favorite chutney, really. It's not going to be your typical chutney, as you can see from the way we've cooked it, so I'm not sure the chutneys you have locally in the US or in other countries in Europe. It'll be interesting to see, the types of chutney recipes that you guys have, so let me know in the comments below. Always looking for new recipes, new ideas. You got to keep learning, right? Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you enjoyed it. And make sure you subscribe so you get alerted for the next one. Until then, stay spicy.